Hi, everyone. This is Nick Orlando with the Nick Alonso Podcast, and I'm with one of our supporters, an individual that is an entrepreneur of Base Coffee located at the Sacramento and surrounding area. And today we're going to be talking about his love of coffee, his entrepreneurship, and if you're thinking about getting into the coffee business, maybe you'll get a couple of tips today. So appreciate him stopping by, and his name is Luis.
Thank you for having me.
Luis, my brother, I appreciate it, man. Let me make sure
course.
I get this nice and clear here for the audience, Base Coffee. And let's open up one of our coffees that you brought us as well.
Let's do it.
This one's Midnight Mist. Is that the same one you got?
I got the White Lotus right here. This is our cold brewski.
Cold brew.
Hoping to get this thing going.
All right. Base Coffee, everyone. I appreciate you coming down.
Thank you.
And for those, again, that are listening, I brought Luis on because he was recommended by a lot of people that we're in the same circle with, and they talked about his entrepreneur skills. They talked about his love of building business, and I'm just fascinated to hear about his journey in the coffee world. I don't know much about it, so that's where we're going to start off.
Cool.
And we were able to talk a little bit on the phone prior to coming here too. You guys have 3 co-founders. You're one of them.
Yes.
And what's your current role again?
Actually, the chief roaster right now and kind of like head of operations.
Perfect. And so tell us about your story and how you guys came together as a collective power team.
So it's kind of a funny story. Just right off the bat, I can tell you this happened completely by accident to a certain degree. So one of our partners, Isaiah, his mom is actually the founder of Tiferet coffee shops. They're a pretty big chain here in Sacramento. They have 2 locations currently. One is in Mercy Hospital. The other one is right there in McKinley Square in front of the park. And so Isaiah's mom is the founder of that. They've been around for maybe like a little over a decade. And the roaster who was roasting their coffee, him and his wife, unfortunately, were having some health issues, and they're planning on moving out to the Carolinas. So they were looking at selling their business to someone that they trusted that was going to be able to carry the same quality through all their shops, since the roaster and Sabrina, Isaiah's mom, have a really good relationship. They were in escrow with a previous buyer who ended up backing out last minute. And so he was like, hey, like, I need to, get out of this business because we need to take care of our health. And so my partner, Isaiah's mom, reached out to us and said, hey, I know this is kind of a long shot, but would you guys be interested in taking over this business? At this point, he doesn't really care to make a profit on it. He's basically just going to sell you the infrastructure. He's not going to charge you for any of the business accounts or anything. And so we decided to take over the business and make it our baby. So that's kind of how we fell into this.
So straight acquisition. Now, did you guys have like a love of coffee between all 3 of you guys? Was just this like, hey, this is a straight business decision. It's a great opportunity. What was that feeling? Were you guys like, hey, did you have to kind of get with each other and say, look, man, we don't know much about coffee, but we're going to jump into it? Or did you guys already have an idea of what the coffee world was like?
So Isaiah, because his mom was the founder of Tiferet, he was a barista for like 4 or 5 years when he was in college. So he has the, I guess you could say, like coffee shop side experience in it. Other than that, we had 0 experience in coffee roasting, which looking back a year now, being in the business is a whole different beast, right? And so we all loved coffee, right? Like I was always a coffee drinker since college. Isaiah's mom was the founder of Tiferet, and then our other buddy, Robbie, he loves coffee too. So it was more so like, hey, we all love coffee. Let's see what this is about. And kind of a funny story in terms of on my end, I made a vision board like 7 years ago, almost 8 years ago. And on my vision board, I had that I wanted to have a coffee business one day. And there's been a lot of other things that came true from the vision board. So when I got approached with this opportunity, I was like, what the heck? Like, this is kind of a trip, like this is on my vision board.
Hell yeah, that's hella cool.
I don't know what this entails, but like it's almost like a sign from God. And so that was kind of like what kind of pushed me to want to explore this idea a little bit more too.
No, that's hella cool. And you brought up a good thing. You guys been open for a good year now. I want to kind of do my own due diligence, right?
Yeah.
Kind of thinking of watching you guys. I see that you guys have 6 different whole bean products that you guys sell wholesale wise. You have 3 different cold brew products, and we'll get more into your products as well.
Sure.
And the difference between the 2. And looked at your guys' Instagram page. You guys are not a small little mom and pop shop where you're just starting. It's like one little tiny grinder and you guys are getting your grind on. You guys got a big machine. You guys are in a facility dishing that out. And you guys got over 30 plus 5-star Google reviews. So that's awesome. I know you guys talked about how you guys came together as a power team, but kind of elaborate on from the beginning stages, the middle stages, and the ending stages, and kind of how that year's been.
So funny enough, I should say that. So when we first got the business started, it was just Isaiah and myself. Isaiah being the son of Sabrina, who owns Tiferet coffee shops. Robbie came on probably like 3 or 4 months after for his love of the business. He's always wanted to get in businesses, and we actually all went to high school together, so we've known each other for a little over 10 years. And we always said that we feel like we'd be like a good fit as a team, right? Because like you know how that can be, right? In
Right.
business, there's people that you might want to do business with, and there's
Right.
probably other people that you don't.
And it's always good to do business with your friends, but you just never know how that's gonna come out.
You
Yeah,
gotta be
right.
careful too.
Right,
It's-
exactly. Right.
And we even talked about all this stuff. We're like, hey guys, like from the beginning, we're like, let's make sure that business is business and friendship is friendship. If anything good or bad happens, like let's know how to separate the two. So we set those expectations right from the beginning. But Isaiah and I acquired the business. It was just him and I with the help of our friend Aaron, who was kind of like helping out with some logistics and stuff at the beginning. So shout out to Aaron. But we quickly realized that if we wanted to grow the business into what we had envisioned, which I guess I should start by saying the Base Coffee was not called Base Coffee. So it used to be called Rocket Works. It was a very mom and pop style kind of operation that Thomas, the guy who sold it to us, was running, where he only had 4 or 5 accounts. He used to have like 7, but obviously some shops closed during COVID and stuff, unfortunately. So he lost some accounts with them going down. And so only had coffee beans, was very kind of traditional style, didn't have any cold brew products, like had no online presence, nothing. So that's why when we got approached with the opportunity to acquire this business, we're like, dude, like at the very worst, like we could damn near like flip this thing, right? Like we can slap a face on it, like make it cool, make it based, and then grow it from there. And so we took over the business, and there was just so much that we saw, with opportunity in it. He had 4 accounts, so luckily I had a good foundation already. Like we weren't buying a business that wasn't making money. It was basically like a little over break even, so we're not in the red, which is super huge for a new business too.
Wow.
And we're like, from here we got to crank it out and see how we can grow this. And so I guess like the first order of business that we thought of at the time was making coffee more accessible, because obviously it was only whole bean, right? And I'm sure, I don't know if you can relate, but people our age, like anywhere from high school age up to like 30 years old, they're not very big on buying whole beans, grinding them at home, making their own espresso shots or making their own potted coffee.
Right. All they know is about Starbucks, fast paced. Like
Order
I
on
want
the
it now.
app.
Yeah, exactly. They don't have the artistic skill to be grinding
Yeah.
and getting ready for the smell of the
And
coffee.
it's a whole game.
Right. And I agree with you. I
And so
agree with you.
Even for me, right? Like before we acquired this business, I wasn't the type to make a pot of coffee at home. Now I do, right? Just because like I have access to the beans and stuff like that. But I always knew, I was like, hey, like I think the first order of business is making this more convenient to the day-to-day coffee drinker. And like our first, book of business that we wanted to get to was the cold brew, which
Okay.
basically took a year to develop, by the way. We'll get into that later. But yeah, so we acquired the business. We obviously took like 6 to 8 months to get our feet on the ground because, like I said at the beginning, we had no experience roasting whatsoever. Like,
You guys had experience being entrepreneurs already.
Sure.
Do you feel like your past experiences understanding business kind of scaled you up quickly? Or do you feel like even having that experience really didn't matter because a coffee roll was just something you'd expect at all?
it helped a lot. Definitely been some humbling moments a year into the business that have made us like realize that the coffee business is its own beast. It's almost like it has as much specialty as like the wine game, I would say, which like I don't know much about wine, but I'm sure you know that there's hundreds of flavor profiles in wine, and there's all these delicacies and intricacies that come with wine. Same thing with coffee. I mean, you can buy coffee from multiple countries around the world, different regions, different altitudes where they're grown. Every single, I don't know how to explain this, but like there's so many different ways that you can roast. There's not a wrong or right way to roast. You can do dark roast, light roast. You can roast it 30 seconds more during different phases of the roast to have different flavor profiles come out. And these are all things that I had to learn within like a 3-month window while we did the transition period from the original owner to giving it to us.
I'm gonna talk about you testing all this coffee out and how your digestive system is, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that. I know that's awesome that these little integral parts. You said just the fact that you're roasting at different temperatures and the length of time, it just will have an intense different flavor profile is what you're saying.
Yep.
So you guys went from acquisition to taking a mom and pop that had barely any accounts, and then you guys had 7 months in the game to really figure this out. And where were you guys at after 7 months with your accounts?
So 3 months to learn it. Put it this way: when we acquired the business, part of the deal is that we got 90 days with the old owner for him to basically teach us everything, which was me being in there because my main partner, Isaiah, he actually lives in LA. So he's been very hands-on the back end, finances, strategy, stuff like that. In terms of being on the ground and roasting, like before Robbie got involved, the other partner, I was pretty much full-time for like 3 months nonstop, twice a week, which is not, I wouldn't say full-time, but like, twice a week, 8-hour shifts for 3 months, learning how to roast and learning how to operate a warehouse, learning how to bag, weighing, like all these different things.
What's the first thing you learned about roasting since you've never done it before? And here's this person with how much years did he have?
He had 12 years of roasting.
So 12 years of roasting. what was the first kind of tip he gave you about, hey, this is what you don't do, or this is what you need to do? It's the first thing you need to learn. Do you remember any kind of first handle tips that you got?
I guess like the first thing that I can remember right off the bat is like when you're roasting, you have to be 110% present. There's a lot of fire hazard. It's very easy to mess up the roasting for the coffee, quality control for your shops. If you start being inconsistent with your shops, it's very easy for them to want to go shop at another coffee roaster.
Right, because you
And
just said
so,
that roasting changes that profile really deep and really fast. So
100%
you just had to learn to be consistent. It's almost like a
consistent.
person doing like a sushi chef with rice. If your
Mhm.
rice is off every time, they're not going to come back. So it's the same, like you said, the
Same
kind of
idea.
that same niche.
Mhm.
So after you learned the roasting for a while, what was the next step in the knowledge that you needed to acquire after that 3 months? Or was that it? Like once you got the roasting down, was there something else he showed you, or was there?
Believe it or not, once I learned how Thomas would do business, that was it. Like he didn't do anything outside of that. So cold brew, new accounts we picked up, all that stuff is stuff that we had to do our own research on. We had to do it. We eventually got our first hire to roll out the cold brew. We got 2 new accounts after that. We rolled out our online business, which was huge. We started doing live events, which he would never do, like stuff like that.
Okay.
And so all that stuff we had to, use our past experiences or mentors or whatever the case was.
You doing old school door knocking? You just showing up at coffee shops like, hey man, I've got this product here. Or what was
We
that like
tried
for you
that out
guys?
for a little bit, but coffee is very competitive. And, if I were to put myself in the shoes of a coffee shop owner, for example, it's very hard to switch your coffee roast supplier unless you're having some kind of issues with them, which is actually kind of common. We're starting to learn that.
Common, what do you mean? Like someone will give you like, hey, yeah, I guarantee you 4 or 5 months in advance, and all of a sudden halfway in, they're like,
Inconsistencies with
Ah.
quality, flavor. But to begin with, so a lot of the big coffee shops, I'm sure you know, in Sacramento, like Sacramento is a very big coffee, has a very big coffee community. So we have our temples, we have our I don't even know. I'm trying to
well,
think
the
off the
big
top.
Pete's Coffee, you got Starbucks, you've got
Yeah,
the
but more like the local ones. Like a lot of the big local roasters, like Pachamama, like they roast their own coffee also. So for example, like we couldn't just go knock on Temple's door because they roast their own coffee. It would have made, they'd be like the hell out of it.
yeah,
You know what
right,
I'm saying?
okay.
And so but there's a few shops, for example, that they source their coffee beans from other roasters, kind of like the ones that we sell to right now or white label to. And so that's been kind of that was another reason why we wanted to get into cold brew, because we're like, man, like if we stick to what, Thomas was doing, with nothing wrong with what he was doing, right? All respects to the amazing business he built, but I was like, this is going to be a slow grind. And we want to try and figure out how to get this thing on its feet as fast as possible, and make it 10 times taller. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And so we had to come from a different angle, which luckily one of my cousin's friends out in Berkeley, he reached out to us when we were super new. He's been roasting coffee for like 4 years out there for another company. Won't say it on camera. But
Shout out to him.
shout
Thank you
out
for
to
your help.
shout out to our boy Diego. Yeah, he actually
Yeah.
he's actually our first hire, by the way. So
Oh,
shout out to
okay.
Diego. Lots of love if you're gonna watch us in the future. And so he reached out to us early on. I kind of didn't pay any mind to it at first, and then eventually we're like, you know what? I think it's time that we get another person involved. And he happened to be the person that rolled out cold brew for this roaster in the Bay Area, and so we brought him onto our team, and he basically rolled out cold brew for Base Coffee Company as well.
Wow.
He already had all the research behind him. He had done, 2 to 3 years of testing for this other company, and just kind of helped us bring the infrastructure over using our recipes, because even though the brewing process is very generic, there's nothing super special about brewing cold brew. But the beans is what matters, right? And like every roaster has
The different
their good
style.
beans. Like even though I own a Base Coffee Company, I still love going to Temple. I still love going to Pachamama, because it's good to switch it up every once in a while.
I mean, as you said, especially if you're doing your own due diligence, you want to see what the competition is doing. You're trying to, I would assume, increase your own profile on your palate. So that makes sense that you're still trying other coffee. And we're gonna jump into you went into a good segue, but I don't jump in the yet because I really want to finish. Okay, so you went from now you're at the point where you're up and running.
Yep.
So you guys are at
So we're on cruise control.
Okay.
We're roasting. We're operating like Thomas was, and then we slowly start to do events. I think our first event was with my buddy Alejandro, who owns the neighborhood markets out in Davis and here in Sacramento. So it's like a vintage outdoor market. We did
Okay.
our kind of like, so we launched online back in like September, October of last year, 2023. And that same weekend, we kind of did like our hard public launch where we went ham on social media.
Wow.
We like opened our web store, and it was like this big old launch. And so we did a live event out there and had like a really successful event. Like all our friends came out. We were handing out free coffee to all the vendors like early in the morning, which like really helped push our brand.
Nice.
Everyone's been super supportive of the brand. They love the name. They kind of love like the edge that we have online, kind of like, because we didn't come from coffee. So I'm looking at it almost like from like a design / fashion kind of
Okay.
approach
Yeah.
to it. Like, how can we make this cool and hip? Like, I'm not really trying to be a coffee snob.
Or
I was
okay.
looking at it from a completely different angle. Whereas if you meet a lot of the people in the coffee game, we call them coffee snobs, not in a disrespectful way, but they're coffee snobs. They're very like organic and like it's all about the coffee, not really about the brand. And we
Okay.
were coming at it from a different way because we trusted that the coffee quality was already there. Shout out to Thomas and like the foundations he left. Which I mind you, we haven't switched anything he's done.
Okay.
So we didn't mess with any of the roasts. We didn't try and change any of the blends. Like the house blend that he had, all we did is called it the base blend.
Okay.
The dark roast that he had, we called it the midnight roast. So like we just changed the name. But because he had such good quality control and such good raving feedback from his current accounts, we're like, why are we gonna why are we gonna try and fix what's not broken, right?
No, that makes sense.
We only added to it, like we've added some single origins because people were requesting it, which basically just means you're not blending different coffee origins together.
Okay.
Like the one that you mentioned earlier on our call, like the Ethiopian, for example.
And we'll talk about that because I'm curious because
Yeah.
that's your only product that you've done outside of the original 5.
Correct.
Basically.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, we'll talk about that
Yep.
for sure.
And then I mean even the cold brew ingredients, for example, are previous ingredients from the blends that Thomas left us.
Wow. Shout out to Thomas.
Shout out to
'cause,
Thomas.
it's unfortunate on Thomas's issue. I wish the well for him. But I guess things happen for a reason, as they say.
100%.
And the fact that he was able to go 90 days with you and just teach you all the roasting techniques, man, that's just awesome. So thank you to Thomas. You still keep in contact with Thomas? Okay.
Definitely do, yeah.
Okay.
Super cool guy. He's
Yeah.
very involved with this church, and I think he's still in Sac, if I'm not mistaken. Last we spoke, he's supposed to be moving to the Carolinas like at the end of the summer or something. So
That sounds nice. Thomas,
Cool.
take me with you.
for real, get us out of Cali. No, I'm kidding. I love it.
So you talked about the bean, so I just want to jump into the next segue. Let's
Sure.
really talk about and focus on the bean. No, you've been doing it for the last year now. You consider yourself a roast master? That's what I should call you?
I would say it's pretty safe to say that.
Okay,
Yeah,
all
like,
right.
I'm pretty much I could go in there and like I damn near can like roast with my eyes closed now. You know what I'm saying? Like
Okay.
I flow in there.
But you need your own Netflix special. They're just like the beans, you just smelling the beans as you're walking through the place. You're like,
For
that
real.
one's been roasting for 10 seconds too long.
Right.
Turn that off. You know what I mean?
So yeah, I would consider myself a roast master. Obviously, like I'm the type where I think there's always something to learn, right? I'm sure there's a
Yeah.
roaster out there that'll come into our warehouse, audit our roast, and be like, "Hey, bro, you got to fix this, right?" When we had our first hire, Diego, the one that works with us now, there were certain things that he came in, for example, and he was putting us onto. So I was like, "All right, cool." We didn't like necessarily implement all of it, just because, like I said, I'm almost like scared to change what Thomas left, just because I know that we have a good product. Based off what people have told us so far, based off our Google reviews, based off the cold brew success, all that stuff, and I'm just like I don't want to fix what's not broken. You know what I'm saying?
No, I understand. I mean, but you guys are already expanding, even though you're not. You sound like you're like, oh man, I'm a little scared to do it, but you're already doing it.
The only thing
know,
we've
yeah.
added recently that we haven't even announced, this is probably the first time we're talking about on this podcast, is we just added Colombian beans to our stock. Thomas had no Colombia beans, which most people, like everyone, when they hear Colombian coffee beans, they think it's like amazing and it's raving, right? And we had none of it in our stock. And so in the near future, we're probably going to offer a single origin Colombia coffee. Just kind of throwing that
No,
out there.
and that's awesome, and it kind of brings us to this one question here, and I'm going to circle back with that because it ties into this. I wanted to ask you about the quality of a bean, like what makes it exceptional. So now we're talking about Colombian beans. Everyone's raped. What's so good about Colombian beans? I know nothing about coffee. I know nothing about beans. What is it about the community that when they hear Colombian beans, it's like hearing a Cuban cigar?
I think it's more of like I think it's kind of just like a cultural practice at this point. Like I think when people hear Colombia, when they hear Yemen, Ethiopian, those are like some of the countries that produce the best beans. I'll be completely honest. So the way we source our beans, we go through a broker. We don't do like a direct farm to roaster relationship, just because it's very expensive unless you're operating at like a super, if you're pumping out like tons of coffee per month, then it makes sense to do that.
Yeah.
Like Temple, I know they source it directly through farms, but that's because they're pumping out thousands of pounds per month. We're not there yet. And so we go through a broker out of the Bay Area. They basically shop on behalf of all the roasters that go through them. They go to these countries. They do the what's called cupping and testing, and they give us a flavor profile, quality control profile sheet, all that stuff. So we study that. Thomas would leave us like, this big old list of items that we have to look for, what to stay away from. So for example, a lot of our coffees are very chocolate based. Whereas like the current kind of like trend or fad in coffee is very acidic or like kind of like citrusy coffee.
Mm.
I don't know if you ever had a shot of espresso that's almost like bitter.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah,
Which
very
I
bitter.
personally like it, right? But Thomas, he was very chocolate based, and so that was even kind of hard for me because prior to base coffee, I was like a big Temple fan. I still am.
Yeah.
Shout out to Temple, and I love their espresso, and it's a lot more acidic. You know, like when you drink that very last bit of the espresso, for example, it's super acidic at the
Yeah, you
bottom.
need some water after.
Yeah, or if you have a shot of espresso, you need like some mineral water, right?
Yeah.
And so our coffee, for example, is very chocolate based, which chocolate undertones come heavy from Colombia and Brazil, and sometimes from Ethiopia as well.
Okay.
And so the quality of coffee, I haven't gotten into like the very like intricate parts of testing raw green beans. We kind of just go off what the broker gives us on the list, and we have like the undertones that we're looking for in different coffees from different regions.
And I appreciate you kind of walking us through your process of finding these, but what's the process of finding a broker? Can you just like call a phone like, hey man, I want to buy your beans, and they're just like willing to give it to anybody? Or do you got to find a broker that's been recommended by the other brokers or other individuals? Like, don't go to this person, go to this person. Like, how are you finding your brokers for someone that wants to get into the coffee game? What would be their first step?
So we go through, and this isn't a secret, so right? So I can share this. Like we go through Kavoya. They're actually like probably top 2 or top 3 brokers in the country, and they have locations at all the major ports. So they have them in Alameda/San Francisco, New York, obviously. I think in Texas, like anywhere where there's big ports in the U.S.
Yeah.
Where they have these big old ships coming in with these massive containers of big old coffee bags. That's where they have their locations. So we currently go through Kavoya and Royal Coffee.
Okay.
And then they have a huge selection. Like Royal has different origins. So like right now we buy coffee from Ethiopia, Yemen, Colombia, Brazil, Guatemala, Nicaragua, Colombia. I don't know if I said Colombia yet. Brazil, and Peru.
Okay.
And that's where we get all our coffee from. And then our decaf is from Brazil as well.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Okay.
so those are all the origins we currently use, and we use different blends to make our coffees using all those different origins.
No, I love kind of the information you're giving us because every time I do these interviews, it doesn't matter if it's coffee, it doesn't matter if it's real estate. I'm always taking something from it. Now I'm gonna feel like I'm a little coffee snob because I'm gonna go with these shots now and say, this is too bitter. You got too much acidity here. I act like I know what I'm talking about.
Different places have different qualities. You know, like for example, like Yemen is known to be like the Louis Vuitton. Like Yemen and Ethiopia, like the Louis Vuitton of coffee.
Why is that?
Just based off number one, I think like the altitude of where the coffee is grown and the quality of the cherry, because coffee actually comes from a cherry. I don't know if you
No, I didn't know that at all.
Coffee, if you look at coffee beans, they look like a little red cherry, or before it turns into a bean.
Yeah.
So they come from a cherry, and then they have to dry. There's like this whole process. They could either be water processed or they could be processed through like sun drying.
Okay.
And they turn into a green bean. And so before you roast them, like before you see brown coffee that you'd see like from a Starbucks bag or from Based, they're a little green bean. They look like little peanuts or pistachios almost.
Man, that's so okay. So let me just Yemen and what was the other one?
Yemen and Ethiopia, or like
Yemen,
and there's a few other countries, but from the ones that we carry, those are like the most expensive. Like they cost 3 times more than a bag of Brazil.
and that's that's why you got the Ethiopian brand. So was that the reason, just by knowing that was going to be a top tier line of a coffee bean? Is that why you guys just gravitated and just got that Ethiopian
Super
line?
specialty coffee. So like the one that you're drinking right now, for example, the Midnight Mist. This is Ethiopian.
Let's put this up real quick. Can you see me?
That's the Midnight Mist. So that's Ethiopian mixed with Brazil.
Okay.
And so and then for example, the White Lotus, this is Peru and Guatemala.
Hit that camera.
A lot more fruity right here, Peru and Guatemala. And then I don't know if actually Mocha Seca. So this is Yemen and Brazil with some vanilla extract, non-alcoholic. And so technically our most expensive like cold brew to produce is the Mocha Seca and the Midnight Mist.
Whoa. Okay.
Because of the cost.
Okay.
But we keep it flatline. But you know, we ran our numbers on the back end to like be able to make it all the same because we didn't want to confuse people.
Right.
So
and let me ask you this. So drinking, you know what? Because I'm gonna get back to this cold brew. We're almost there. I wanted to ask one last question before we get to the cold brew section, because that's another thing that interests me. But I was laughing about this with my cousin earlier. I'm like, this dude tasting coffee all day. I know when I drink coffee, my wife drink coffee 5 minutes. You know what we all got to do. So what's your digestive system like, man, when you're testing all this coffee? You got to tell yourself, like, hey, listen, get yourself ready. I'm about to drink about 50 gallons of coffee.
I think I got a tolerance for it now.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I think like in terms of, not to get TMI on the camera, but I think I built a little bit of a tolerance.
All right.
More so like when I was first roasting and testing coffees with Thomas, it was like the jitteriness and like the caffeine rush that was like hitting me hard.
Okay.
That was what was like I wasn't used to. Even though, because like back then I was a coffee drinker, but not like that heavy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I was drinking like Starbucks or Pete's or something that wasn't always as hot, or like my little Nespresso at home, pop a
Yeah.
little pot in, not like looking in hindsight now, like not very quality at all. It's very short term kind of like pleasure when it comes to caffeine.
Oh, really? It's just a quick little hit you, but your coffee is more lingering. Is that kind of hair? So
Fresh
the
from
caffeine effect.
anywhere. I mean,
Okay.
obviously I'm gonna pump my bags and say base coffee, right?
Right.
But if you get any fresh roasted coffee, right? Like if you go to Temple, for example, that's why Temple hits harder. If you go to Pachamama, or if you go to any of these places where they roast their coffee within a week,
Yeah.
you're gonna get the highest amount of caffeine content.
So okay, let me just make sure I'm understanding this. If you roast your coffee at a shorter period of time, you're gonna have a quicker, harder effect.
Mhm.
That if you were to roast it for a longer period of times, the effect may be not as hard up front, but you're gonna have a longer, I guess, caffeine stimulant
Mhm.
for a longer period of time.
Yeah, because like mind you, like Starbucks, for example, amazing company. I still drink Starbucks to this day, for example, right?
Yeah.
Amazing company. But if you go buy Starbucks whole beans from Costco or from Safeway or from Whole Foods that you just grind your beans at home, they're roasting this a month or two before it's actually getting to these stores, right?
Okay.
And because they're roasting it in such high demand, and obviously these stores aren't necessarily pumping out coffee like that 24/7, and so they might be sitting in the bag for a month, 2 month, 3 months. I mean, I don't know like the actual number, but I've heard it's like upward of 3 months on average. And so if you go buy a bag from them, even though Starbucks is known as being super strong, versus if you go to any local roaster, hopefully it's base coffee,
Yeah.
you're gonna get a much stronger caffeine content from a freshly roasted coffee for sure.
Man, that's good to know.
Yeah.
So when you guys drinking coffee, you gotta ask them how long you've been roasting this. That'll
Mhm.
give you a time frame on when you gotta do your business.
That's why like all the local roasters will put like a roasted on date so that you
Yeah.
can know when it was actually roasted. So if you buy coffee from us, not the retail products, but our retail products are always roasted within a week. Just so you know, we roast every week, and so we don't let our bags sit for more than 2 weeks.
Okay.
If we have any leftovers, we give them out to friends, or we take them home, or whatever the case is.
And that's what I like. And I don't, I hope you don't cause a disrespect. You guys are a boutique company. You guys are a
Mhm.
company that does something that's very different. You're on your guys' own avenue. That's what I love about companies like this, that you guys take your own vision, your own quality into your product. So Base Coffee, shout out to you guys again.
Thank
You
you.
answered my first question again to see what the cold brews, but we talked about the process of the beans. We talked about roasting. Without giving too much of your secret sauce, if you can answer this, what is the different process of doing cold brew versus roasting something into a hot coffee?
So when you do when you're brewing a hot coffee versus brewing a cold, like a cold brew, for example, technically cold brew is as far as we've done a bunch of research on, it's the way to extract the caffeine, the I guess you could say like the strongest from coffee in the coffee game. So when you're brewing coffee hot, because of the heat, it's also kind of breaking down some of the caffeine content. Versus cold brew, it's usually like an 18 to 24-hour brewing process at room temperature water, and the water's extracting the coffee. You have to grind it a different way than if you were making traditional coffee, and it's extracting the coffee flavor profile, the caffeine at a very slow rate. And so even if you were to try, like there's people are like, what's the difference between iced coffee and cold brew? Like that is the one of the differences is that cold brew, you're brewing it almost like beer. It's extracting it over a 24-hour period versus
Wow.
iced coffee is usually you brew it hot, you let it sit in the fridge for a day, and then the next day you pour it over ice.
Are
And
you adding anything to this cold coffee in the brewing process? Is it just straight natural? You brewed it and it's coming out. Or are you guys adding anything? If you can't answer that, I totally understand. We
no
won't give it the
no
risk. Yeah.
additives. Like so most coffees you don't want them to have additives. Like for example, they don't have any milk. The only thing that for example Mocha Steka has is some organic non-alcoholic vanilla extract,
Okay.
and then the Midnight Mist has some chicory. So chicory is very popular in cold brew in New Orleans, which is like it's known as like some of the best cold brew in the whole United States. And so we wanted to like kind of bring a piece of what's considered some of the best cold brew in the U.S. into the base coffee.
Did you guys go to New Orleans?
I've been in New Orleans,
Okay.
not for cold brew with chicory, but
You might have stumbled across it when you had a good
Yeah.
day.
And so yeah, so it is different. Even if you try, like if I were to give you the same exact beans from the White Lotus, and if you
Yeah.
were to make iced coffee versus cold brew, the consistencies are even different.
Okay. And
Mhm.
talk about consistency. This was my next question. Like,
Mhm.
do you have two different unique profile tastes when it comes to brewing or cold coffee versus hot coffee?
Mhm.
Like, what is the big distinction between the flavors, you think?
It's mostly in the consistency. So the flavor is almost the same, but like the texture is very different. So if you were to try like iced coffee or like an iced coffee of Mocha Seca or a hot coffee, it's more like, I don't know what's the right word to say. It's like more fluid, like almost like smooth, like a regular coffee.
Okay.
If you were to try the cold brew, which it's basically what you're trying,
Yeah.
it's almost like more milkier. Like people have said that like they're like it feels like it has cream in it, even though it doesn't have cream.
Ah, okay.
And
And
then
that's the natural flavor.
Mm-hmm.
So by doing no additives, you
No
get
additives.
you get more of a vanilla, milky kind of flavorish, I guess, texture
More
even
like
to
the
it.
texture. It feels like it's thicker almost. You know
Ah,
what I'm saying?
okay.
It almost feels like it literally has milk in it before you even put milk in it.
That's kind of ironic, right? Because you think with coffee, it feel like hot coffee would be thicker.
Yeah.
But then when you go to the cold, I guess, okay, again, lesson to be learned for all those out there.
And of course, like it's hard to describe on camera. Like it'd have to be one of these things which we're gonna actually start doing public cuppings like once a month, where we invite people to the warehouse to come try coffee, sit with us, and kind of see what a roasting process looks like. Try cold brew on the spot, like all that stuff.
Oh, that's cool. So when is that? You said within a month. Do you have a date already?
Probably starting in July or August, we're gonna start doing cuppings once a month at the warehouse.
All right. So you guys hear
You guys heard it
that?
here first.
Isaiah, you got me on camera right here. You guys heard that in about a month or so. You said July, maybe August.
Maybe August latest. Yeah.
My man Luis here is going to be doing a coffee tour, basically, if you're a facility, and you guys are going to be tasting some high quality coffee at Bay. So look out for that.
Yeah.
And speaking about a couple of things, we talked about beans, we talked about cold brew. I want to kind of jump back for the consumers here, for those that really haven't tasted your coffee yet. I want them to understand your business more. What's next up for Base Coffee? Like, what can the consumers expect from you, other than maybe I just already answered it for you, but you have the taste testing coming. Is there anything else that they can expect from Base Coffee?
Kind of our mission right now that we're working on is to do more events. So like we're looking at doing some farmers markets. We kind of got to work on the back end with the team to build out a team for that. Cause obviously like, we all have other, like, I do real estate full time. I own a trading group, and my other partners, they have their own things on the side too. And so we're looking to build out a team in case anyone's interested, by the way.
All right.
For any farmers markets and live events. This will probably be the first time I announce this too. We just got approved to be at the Farm to Fork Festival, which is like Northern California's biggest food and beverage festival that we have up here.
Hell yeah.
Over 100,000 people will be there in September. So we'll be there along with Temple, and I can't remember what other roasters. There's only 3 coffee companies that they approved, and we got approved. So super exciting stuff for Based in our first year to get approved for the Farm to Fork Festival. So we're going to be there for sure in September for 3 days. So doing more events, and then right now what we're really going after is the whales. Like we're open to any new coffee shop. So if anyone's watching this that's planning on wanting to open a coffee shop or some kind of a coffee operation in the future, we're more than happy to talk to you. But right now we're interviewing with a few big companies. I won't say any names right now, but that distribute at a grander level. We're trying to go after the whales just because, kind of like what I mentioned when we first got in the business. Coffee can be by nature a very slow grind, and so we're trying to find the avenue to get in front of the most eyes as fast as possible.
Man, I love this because you've only hit a year. Have you hit a year already, or you guys are like a little under a year?
A year from our acquisition in August or October will be our year of public launch.
And this is a little side question here, because you guys are animals. Within a year, you guys already took a company that wasn't grown. I'm not going to say failing, because it was obviously some things that they only knew. And you took your knowledge and you brought it to where you're at now. Just thinking as an entrepreneur, not even talking about coffee, what do you think as an entrepreneur that really is a skill set, or something that someone wants to just grow a business in general, that you have that kind of is making this go as quickly as possible, as successful as you guys have done so far?
I would say, I guess like my gut instinct answer to that is like, one man's trash is another man's treasure. Like if you look at a business opportunity before you get into it, and while you're vetting it, is you want to look at it and say, where can we make this better? Where can we make this shine? Whereas like someone else might have looked at it as like an inconvenience, or like they were taking it too slow.
Okay.
How can you take your edge and your experience or your network, right? Like sometimes there's a lot of things that I don't know myself, and like I'm more than happy to admit that. But I know a bunch of people, right? So if I can't get the job done, who do I know that can put me in front of this big account, or who can put me in front of this huge chain of stores like Sprouts or something like that, right? And you got to like leverage pretty much everything possible: relationships, people, skill sets, past experiences, whatever it is. You got to leverage that when you're getting into a business.
No, I love that. And you talked a little about real estate. We're both in real estate, and
Yeah.
we've learned throughout the process is everything is relational based. We get relational, and that's how I met you. I met you through somebody else who advised me to get you on here. And thank you again for coming on. I can't say that enough. So entrepreneurs out there, keep that relationships going, And like you said, listen to your gut and do your research, do your due diligence.
Yeah.
Let me jump back on because I do that sometimes. I'll
Sure.
get off track here. Innovations. I know I kind of threw this at you. Is there any innovations in the coffee world that you see that someone's trying to do or someone's trying to invent or a machine that you may think that, yeah, I may want to test this out or this is kind of cool just to talk about? And if nothing comes to mind, I understand too. I mean, I don't know nothing about coffee, so I don't know who's inventing what.
Believe it or not, other than funny enough, even to this day, I still haven't gotten to the coffee snob side of things. So like the only main things that I have heard, for example, is cold brew. So like, contrary to popular belief, cold brew is still very small in the coffee world, right? Like, not that it's like some special invention or anything, but like cold brew itself versus iced coffee. For example, I think like nitro cold brew at Starbucks has only been popular for like 4 or 5 years, 6 years maybe
wow.
max, where they started using kegs and all that stuff, which is what we actually are looking into doing right now. And so cold brew is one thing I've heard, right? Like I said, I don't dabble too much into this side. I'm very like on the business strategy growth side of the business now with what I know. But from what I've heard, there's like people doing like mushroom coffees, like where they not like not like trippy
Watch for
shrooms.
the hallucinogen
Or
coffees
maybe
over
okay,
there. Yeah,
there
right.
actually might be, right? But I know that there's been like mushroom infused coffees, and there's been, what else have I heard of? I forgot what else people have been telling me about. Like people hit me up all the time, be like, look into this, look into that, and I'm just like, I don't know, man. Like you got to like one thing that Thomas taught us is you got to be kind of careful with the fads, right?
Yeah.
Because coffee at the end of the day, I mean, look at what coffee is. It's probably like the number 2 most socialized kind of adapted drink after alcohol. Coffee and alcohol, like they're world known. Like it's one of the most common things you can do with someone. You can break bread with them and have a glass of wine, or you can have a cup of coffee with them. When
Yeah.
you're networking, what do you tell people? Let's go have a drink or let's go have a cup of coffee, right?
Right.
And
right.
so to like have to dabble into like, hey, let's go make some mushroom infused coffee. Like it's just, it almost feels like a little redundant in terms of what our goals are for the company. Not saying there's nothing wrong with it, right? Who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe there's a multi-million-dollar mushroom coffee company out there. I don't know. Right.
Right. So there. I don't even want to jump on mushrooms because that could be a whole.
It might get trippy.
Yeah. Right, might get real trippy here in a minute. But no, again, shout out to Thomas again, giving you great
Yeah.
advice. You know,
So
just staying kind of true to your guys' mission, your product, and what you guys are doing. And you know, again, not being in the coffee game at all. If I was already trying to develop something new, I'd probably get caught up in fads too. What is the next thing? But man, I guess again, just listening to your gut and
Yeah.
seeing what you need to
And
do.
even from an entrepreneur side, I'll be honest, like I've dabbled in tons of businesses, and even, for example, from my own experience, the reason why I almost ignore a lot of these suggestions sometimes, which hopefully won't bite me in the ass later, but it's like I've burnt myself in the past by stretching myself too thin. So whether that's business strategy, whether it's your schedule, whether it's your family, whether it's like too many commitments of work, stretching yourself thin and losing sight of the original goal can sometimes burn you. And so that's why, like, because we're a new company, I don't want to be that new company that like just starts dabbling in everything that sounds hot in the coffee world. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like the only thing that we wanted to expand on from the beginning was the brand and cold brew. Like, you know,
Okay.
those are 2 things that we saw this company or like, this is what it needs right off the bat, at least to like, you know, double or quadruple its value right off the rip, for sure.
Man, that's awesome, man.
Yeah.
And again, great advice from entrepreneurs out there. And to kind of talk back to our your customers, your consumers. How do you stay connected with them? Like, how do you get your feedback? Are you constantly in contact with their advice, or what's going on with the one-on-one kind of based relationship with them?
We get a lot of feedback from people at our live events. So like Isaiah pulled up to the last event that we had at Jets. So we always
Okay.
have like samplers, for example. We always are happy to let people try our coffee for free before they buy it.
Okay.
What do you think about the coffee? Recently, we actually started reaching out to people via call. Like we're small enough, right? We have a lot of customers, but we're small enough to where we can essentially cold call people and email them and be like, hey, thank you so much. Like recently we started reaching out to them to say like, what are your thoughts not only on the coffee, but what are your thoughts on the checkout flow online? Like, what do you think about our social media? Like everything, like where do you feel like there's any room for improvement on anything that we're doing so far?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how we've connected with our current customer base. Obviously, you mentioned our Google feedback. Because I'm very big on that in the real estate world. I told my partners right off the bat, like, hey, like we got to get Google reviews. This is going to help our SEO. This is going to push us to the top of Google when people search coffee on Google. And so we've done it by asking for people for reviews. Like, hey, you know, thank you for supporting Base Coffee Company. If you don't mind, we'd greatly appreciate your feedback. If you don't mind leaving us a review, it might take you like a minute or two, and just let us know your true thoughts. And hopefully we earn 5 stars from the experience of drinking our coffee.
Man, that's fantastic. And when you guys are listen, what he just said was customer service, customer service, customer service. So that means when you're calling Base Coffee, you're not calling some third party that's going to answer the phone. You're going to get one of the co-founders. You're going to get one of the employees. You're going to talk to Base Coffee themselves. That's why they got 5-star Google reviews. So I freaking love that, man.
Yep.
And has that kind of been the base of building your loyal customer kind of base there, just keeping in contact with them? Is that how you guys are kind of growing so fast? Do you think that's what's contributing to it?
It's been one of the things. Like, I would say we probably started doing that a little bit more recently, but I think just having that very personal touch has helped us a lot. Like, one thing we're actually going to start doing soon, right? Like, I'll be honest, like, I feel like even our online store kind of creates a barrier because coffee is such a personal business that I even was telling my partners, I was like, hey man, like, I'm not opposed to us reaching out to our whole database personally via text. So there's a lot of people that haven't tried Base Coffee that I know, believe it or not, right? A year into the business. Which I get it, you know, like, people aren't forced to support anyone. We've never like bugged people to support us. Like, those who want to try our coffee will try it.
Yeah.
Those who don't, by all means, you know, go get Starbucks. I might see you there.
Right.
Right. So, but one thing that we do want to implement to add a little bit more of a personal touch is we're probably going to start doing personal deliveries twice a month.
Okay.
And so we're going to reach out to literally our whole database. We might shoot a text to like 500 people and say, hey, we're going to start doing deliveries every 2 weeks. Is there anything that you want from Base Coffee Company? We'll personally deliver it to you from our whole catalog. Cold brew, whole beans, whatever you want.
I looked at your Instagram. It seems like you have subscribers already. Like, people subscribe to you. That's
Yeah, we
and
have
I've never
subscription service.
and I've never seen that actually. When I looked, I was like, oh, that's the first time I've seen that. Actually, people subscribing to get coffee sent to them.
Yeah, like, let's say
Is that something new though? Is it?
yes and no. Like, I've seen
Okay.
other people doing it. Like, you'll see it a lot with I mean, like, even Amazon has subscriptions. I
Yeah.
don't know if you buy like protein or random stuff.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
Amazon's
yeah.
like, save 5% if you subscribe. And it's kind of cool because it lets you kind of not have to think about it. Like, I know I want coffee every Monday to my door. Let me subscribe to the Base Coffee Company so I don't have to think about it. And I save 10% in the process
Okay, that makes
by
sense.
subscribing.
That makes sense.
Yep.
And we're coming down to our last two closing questions. And again, you know, if you want to say something after, totally up to you.
Sure.
You know, the floor is yours. First closing question is, what do you want to tell the viewers who has yet tried your product?
I would say come try us out. I mean, whether it's, you know, if you want to connect with us at our next event, come try it for free because, you know, we understand people don't always want to try things right off the bat, right? Like, you know, you go to Costco and they give you samples left and right. And I think that's a great model. And so if you want to reach out to us and say, hey, how can I get samples of Base, or when's your next event so we can come try it? Come do so. But I do genuinely think that if you try Base Coffee, especially our cold brew, like, cold brew is my baby, right? Like, when we first bought this business, like, I knew that we wanted to do cold brew right off the bat. So I would love if everyone can try cold brew, whether it's like on the house or if you want to support us online, we do deliver it. But I would say definitely try Base Coffee. I would say that if you were to try our products versus a lot of other cold brew products out there, you will see a huge difference in quality and everything.
No, that's awesome. And just
Definitely
for
caffeine content, like, if you want something to get cranked up, like, based on what we've heard, like, this will crank you up for sure.
and that's what I mean. I love this. And so kind of talk about cold brew. And I've had, he's been our sponsor for 2 weeks now. So I've had 2 weeks to really get in a love relationship with Base Coffee. I can tell you right now, it is very smooth. It's not bitter like he said. The taste is fantastic. It does have this kind of vanilla, kind of milky flavor. He is right on that.
Thank you.
And it's just super delicious. So for those that are asking what the product tastes like, I can tell you firsthand, it's good. So try out Base Coffee.
Appreciate it.
Last closing question, and this is more for those that are maybe looking to get in the coffee game. What is one advice you would give somebody if they're just thinking about getting their foot wet in the coffee industry?
My biggest piece of advice is just, you know, be ready to have some grit, be ready to learn, because there's a million ways to make coffee, honestly. Like, whether you want to explore whole bean, wholesale, whether you want to do cold brew like we did, whether you want to do, I mean, sure, there's people out there that make coffee for like the chocolate covered coffee bites and stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
Wow.
people make coffee for all sorts of different things, but it can be time consuming. So I would say just like either have the time to do it and be ready to work, or have the right team behind you and leverage the right relationships.
Man, that's awesome advice, and I appreciate it. So one more shout out just on the closing video here. Make sure we get that in the camera. Once again, Base Coffee, Luis here, co-founder, okay, of Base Coffee, located in the Sacramento and Elk Grove and the surrounding areas. They have an online business. They have a social media account. We'll post that as well. So if you guys are looking for something different, something great, Base Coffee, check them out. We'll put it in our description as well.
We are at the Tiferet coffee shops here in Sac, the Porch restaurant on, I think, J Street, and also Capitol Garage right in front of the Mix and Park.
Man,
that just closed. RIP the park, but
Awesome.
So if you want to try our products, also before you buy it, those are some places you can go try it like today.
Okay.
So
I appreciate it. Everyone, thanks for you guys tuning in.